the Haunted Motel. James had been driving for hours through the endless highway, his eyes heavy with exhaustion. The storm outside roared violently, making the road nearly impossible to navigate. Just as he was about to give up and park on the roadside, he spotted a dimly lit sign in the distance. Evergreen Motel vacancy. Relieved, he pulled into the small parking lot, the rain hammering against his windshield. The motel looked ancient, its paint peeling off, and the neon sign flickering ominously. James hesitated for a moment, but convinced himself it was just a place to rest for the night. As he stepped into the reception, a frail old man behind the counter greeted him with a blank stare. "Room 13 is available," the man said in a monotone voice. James felt a strange chill crawl up his spine, but brushed it off as fatigue. He grabbed the key and walked towards his assigned room. The hallway leading to room 13 was eerily silent, except for the occasional creak of the wooden floorboards. The dim lighting flickered, casting strange shadows on the walls. He hesitated before unlocking the door. The brass key turned with a loud click, and the heavy door creaked open slowly, revealing a cold, musty interior. Inside, the room was old, but oddly well kept. A single lamp on the bedside table bathed everything in a weak, yellowish glow. The bed looked stiff, the wooden chair in the corner seemed out of place, and the mirror above the dresser had faint smudges, as if someone had been standing too close to it. James ran a hand through his damp hair and sighed. He just needed some sleep. As he sat on the edge of the bed, he noticed something strange. His reflection in the mirror wasn't moving in sync with him. A shiver ran down his spine as he quickly turned away. "I'm just exhausted," he muttered to himself. James lay down, staring at the ceiling, listening to the rain pounding against the window. His eyelids grew heavier, but just as he was about to drift off, he heard faint whispers. It sounded distant at first, like the wind murmuring through the cracks in the walls, but then it grew clearer. "Leave now, before it finds you." A sudden knock on the door made him jolt upright. His heart pounded as he glanced at the clock, 2:47 a.m. Who would be knocking at this hour? He hesitated before cautiously approaching the door and peering through the peephole. No one was there. James swallowed hard. Was someone playing a prank? He waited for a moment, listening intently, but all he could hear was the soft humming of the fluorescent light above. He turned the lock, making sure the door was secured, and stepped back towards the bed. As soon as he sat down, a weight shifted on the mattress beside him. His breath hitched. The air turned icy and the whispering returned, closer this time. "It knows you're here." James's hands trembled as he reached for his phone. The screen illuminated the darkness, and as he lifted it slightly, the reflection in the mirror caught his attention again. This time, there was someone standing behind him. James spun around, but the room was empty. His heart thudded painfully in his chest. He glanced back at the mirror. The shadowy figure was still there, standing deathly still in the corner, its hollow eyes locked onto him. His breath came in shallow gasps as the room grew unbearably cold. The whispers turned into agonized screams echoing from the walls. James clamped his hands over his ears, but the voices only grew louder. "You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be here." With a desperate cry, he lunged for the door, fumbling with the lock. It wouldn't budge. The lights flickered wildly, the air growing thick with an unexplainable pressure. His reflection in the mirror grinned, a wide, sinister smile that didn't belong to him. Suddenly, the door slammed open on its own, and James didn't waste a second. He sprinted down the hallway, his footsteps echoing unnaturally loud. The old motel groaned around him as if the very walls were alive. The exit sign flickered at the end of the corridor, but just as he reached it, a powerful force yanked him backward. James hit the ground hard, gasping for air. Cold fingers brushed against his face. He scrambled to his feet, blindly rushing through the doorway and out into the storm. He didn't dare look back as he threw himself into his car and peeled out of the lot, tires screeching against the wet pavement. Hours later, the sun began to rise, casting a faint golden light over the deserted highway. James stopped at a small diner, his hands still trembling as he ordered coffee. He needed to make sense of what had happened. "Evergreen Motel," he muttered to the waitress. "Something was wrong there." The waitress froze, her expression turning pale. "Evergreen Motel? That place burned down years ago. No one stayed there since James felt his blood turn to ice. He grabbed his phone, flipping through his photos. But every picture he had taken of the motel was gone. And then, in the silence, he heard it once more. "You shouldn't be here.